welcome. I see some people entering our virtual room. You guys, we're going to get started right at 2 o'clock. So you have a minute or so to prepare yourself. And while you're waiting, if you could use the Q&A feature in Zoom, or if you're joining us on YouTube, you can use the comment section. Drop us a note about where you're joining us from. So give the town you're located in, and we'll give a few shout outs. So we'll get started here in about a minute. That buzz means we are ready to go. Welcome, everyone. I see some shout outs I get to give. So Mrs. Jensen's class from Rochester, we're glad you could join us just for a little bit. We have Megan and Clara watching us from Ogilvie, Minnesota. So welcome. Remember, if you are joining us, feel free to drop your location, your school name and your town in the Q&A, and we'll give you a shout out or know that you're here. But my name is Sue Knott, and I am an education specialist with the Minnesota Agriculture in the Classroom program. And I am joined by my colleague, Carrie Seidel. She's doing our technology today. And we have an exciting new camera person, Kate Siebold, who works with us at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. And she was with, works with farm to school programs. And so not only do we have classrooms joining us today, we also have some folks who work with school nutrition, who plan the meals that you guys eat and prepare them. And the reason is because what we're going to see sometimes is served in some of your not classrooms, but your cafeterias at your school. So a few more shout outs. We have Maria from Roseville, who I know in Roseville they use some CannonBelles cheese, which we'll meet in just a second. Crestfield School of Inquiry in Clive, Iowa. Glad you're here. Christine from Champlin is joining us. So thank you, everyone, for making sure that that you're here. Not making sure, but making time to join us. So we are so excited to introduce you to our host for today. But before we do that, I have a couple things. First of all, Q&A is really important. We want to answer your questions right when they come in, right when they pop in your brain. So use the Q&A feature if you're watching in Zoom. Comment if you're in YouTube, and put your questions in there, and I'll ask them to our hosts and get them answered as quickly as possible. Also, we are going to dive into the cheese making process, and we have 10 cheese making kits that we are going to give away to attendees. We'll announce those winners at the end. But a quick preview, in the kit, you will get a hot plate or a hot thing to warm things up, which gives me milk. So you'll also get this pot that you'll put that milk in to make our cheese. You'll get a thermometer, so you'll know exactly what the temperature is. And then you'll also receive this cheese making. This is for mozzarella, so there's some rennet in here, and we'll tell you how, or you'll see how that's used today. And then also you get some lesson plans and ways to use this cheese making kit in your classroom. If you are a winner, congratulations. We hope you make cheese. If you are not a winner, we will be sending a follow-up email with links to all of these items so you can purchase them on your own if you would like. Also included in that follow-up email will be some information on our first ever Minnesota School Garden Week, which is happening at the end of May. Okay, enough of me talking. We are moving on to cheese. So travel with me virtually to Cannon Falls, Minnesota, which is in kind of the southeastern part of our state. And we are going to CannonBelles Cheese and meeting Deanne Lufkin, who is the co-owner and cheesemaker. Diane, how are you? Deanne, are you there?
Okay, it looks like their signal somehow went away. So, Sue, why don't we go ahead and can you tell? Oh, there's she back.
Deanne, can you hear me?
Okay,
nice. Oh, go ahead, Carrie.
I would say I think it might be you could.
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes. Are we good?
Are we good?
No.
Well, just so everyone knows, we practiced it and it works perfectly, but sometimes
Test,
things just go
test,
awry.
test,
Okay, Deanne, I can
test,
hear you. Can you hear me okay?
test. Okay, fabulous.
Here
Okay.
we are. Okay,
Hi, I'm
Deanne, tell
Deanne
us about
Lufkin. Okay. I am one of the three owners of CannonBelles Cheese. I am the head cheesemaker here with helping developing new cheese, its quality and its flavor. I'm also in charge of food safety, so making sure that we don't get anybody sick, and some other things. I started this with my two partners, which you may see them as we're wandering around today. My partner Kathy is in charge of selling and marketing, so she brings the cheese to your schools. And my other partner Jackie, who is in the room making cheese right now, she is in charge of our accounting, our money, and she also runs a crew in there while cheese is being made. So, um, here at the plant, we make cheese twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So, throughout that period, over 1 week, we make over 1,000 pounds of cheese. That is about the size of a small car. So, just imagine a car made out of cheese. That's kind of a lot. Whether it's cheddar, queso fresco, Colby, Gouda, or squeaky cheese curds, there's always something delicious being made here at CannonBelles. So by the end of this tour, you will become a mini cheese expert. So before we go inside, I'll tell you a little bit about how we started. Jackie, Kathy, and I have known each other for almost 20 years. Jackie and I were playing around making different foods. She married a dairy
okay,
farmer, milk to make cheese with. So we started with fresh mozzarella and then moved on to making cheddar and Gouda and other cheeses. After a couple of years, we thought, well, we could maybe make this into a business. I was in the Air Force Reserves as a weather officer, getting ready to retire. Jackie was a youth pastor. To join us. She grew up on a dairy farm, used to have her own dairy farm, but had left dairy to go also work in a church, but really wanted to get back into it. In fact, if you've ever gone to a dairy cow judging at a fair, you might have seen Kathy. She does a lot of that in the summer. And her sisters do a lot of dairy cow judging at the state fair. So you could run into her there too. Um, so we were making that cheese. It was pretty good, but we realized we needed a little bit more knowledge before we got going. So we went and toured about a dozen different cheese plants throughout Minnesota and Wisconsin. And we learned that there's a cheesemaker course at the University of Wisconsin in River Falls. It was only a week long. So I took that to learn how to make it cheese at a big scale. And then I took a bunch of food safety courses so that I knew to make it safe and some other incidental courses. These Minnesota cheesemakers also told us that almost every cheesemaker in Minnesota started at the University of Minnesota. They have a plant there where you can rent equipment to make cheese. We did that for 7 years. In that time, we were looking at building this building here, our cheese plant. We decided to build in Cannon Falls because a lot of food is made here in this town, and we kind of fit right in with it. So it was perfect. So it took us 7 years to build it, but we finally did it 3 years ago, and been making cheese ever since. So it's been going pretty well. The most important part of cheese, though, is the milk. We get our milk from Square Deal Dairy in Randolph, Minnesota. It's less than 5 miles down the road. They have 600 cows and they're a fifth generation family farm. And I think there's a video so you can see more about that farm.
Yeah, thanks, Deanne. So we're going to show you guys a quick video from Square Deal Dairy. And this video was recorded in 2021 when a Vikings player, Delvin Tomlinson, visited the farm. And you'll notice he's wearing a mask because if you remember back to 2021, we were in COVID and not wanting to spread germs. But we're going to see how the cows are milked at Square Deal Dairy and provide that milk that is made into cheese. So I think we're ready to roll with this. Carrie, if you want to press play. We'll see if it works. Hopefully it does.
So Delvin, we're in the milking parlor. We milk 11 cows on each side at a time. It takes on average about 6 to 8 minutes for the cow to get milked. On this side, you can see that we're getting the cows ready to get milked, so we clean them each. We put a foam on them, which allows them to become disinfected, as well as we strip them out to make sure the milk is all of good quality, as well as, there's no abnormalities. But it also helps stimulate the cow to let her milk down. But if I turn it on and you can hear the air, you can actually stick your finger in there if you like. But all it does is it flutters.
Oh, okay.
It just flutters in there.
So how many times a day do you milk the cows?
So we milk the cows 3 times a day. And like I mentioned before, it's only about 6 to 8 minutes that the cow's in here on each side. So that, it only takes about half an hour per day to milk 3 times a day.
Gotcha. So no more manual milking like you see in movies and stuff?
No, we're trying to get away from that.
Are these mats they're standing on right now?
Yep. They stand on mattresses to allow for comfort while they stand here and get milk, as well as it just gives them enough traction too that there's no slipping or anything like that throughout the whole farm.
So they have like protective feet and stuff while they're just sitting there. Okay, I got
you. They're standing here,
So like standing on memory foam for us.
Exactly. Just like when we're standing here too. Yep. And then when they finish up, we put on an iodine dip that helps seal up the teat. So when they go back to the pen, there's no bacteria that happens to get up there.
So how much milk would y'all produce in one day?
On average through our whole herd, we're about 90 pounds.
Oh, okay.
About 90 pounds, a little over 90 pounds. And that's for the summer too, when it gets, it drops a little bit just because of the heat and stuff like that. The cows are big athletes. They're 13 to 1,500 pounds of weight that behind them. You want to try to put one on?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'll do this one, you can do this one.
Oh,
I'll show you how to do this.
I got one by myself?
Yep. Okay, I'll do it first and then you do it. See, you just got to hit the green button. That allows it to start. You take it in. And all you do is just pop them on like that.
Oh, Lord, I'm nervous.
Just nice and slow. Okay, hit the green button.
So hit the green button.
Yep. Go down.
Drop
Yep.
down.
Now just grab one. Yep. Go right to that front teeth. Yep. Yep.
Ooh. This is way easier playing football.
There you go.
And we got it. I got a little milk on me, but we good.
And now you gotta jump when you're done.
I come back in all season to work.
Yep, there you go. Yep. All the milk drops right into these pipelines, and they stagger just because the volume that goes through is we have to run. It's all one, but it's technically two because it all flows. It flows to this tank right behind you here, and then it pumps it over, and we'll go into the bulk tank room here. These are the bulk tanks. They hold 3,000 gallons apiece.
Oh man!
So we ship 1 semi-load a day.
That's a lot of milk. Huh?
Yep. And then actually when the milk comes through, it comes through right up above us here. And it actually goes through a plate cooler, and that runs the milk next to groundwater. So it naturally cools it from the cow's 101 degree temperature body.
Okay.
So it gets it down to ground temp, so about 50, 52, somewhere in there, depending on the warmth of the day. And then then these bulk tanks have compressors on them that allows them to cool it down to about 37 we average. 37 degrees. So
oh man, that's crazy.
Pretty much, within an hour, from the cow to here, it's the temperature it is when it gets to the grocery store.
That's crazy.
Yep.
And you can just see all the technology it takes to actually do it. Like I can't imagine one little piece going wrong. You got to find out where it is.
Okay, so remember that Square Deal Dairy is only a few miles down the road from CannonBelles, where it's made into cheese. And you saw those big bulk tanks. So a refrigerated truck, picks up that milk and brings it to CannonBelles. So we're going to go back to Deanne to tell us what happens once the milk arrives at CannonBelles.
It comes at 2 in the morning, and that whole comes here.
Okay, so we are having just a little bit of trouble here. Sue, let's have Kate who's running our technology. She's gonna log out of Zoom and then come back.
And they bring the called a doghouse. And
Which
then it
can't hear that, so I will let her know. Sue, what do you want to talk about when it comes to dairy cows?
Well, great question, Carrie. So you guys, thank you for bearing with us. If you've ever done technology, you know sometimes you practice and it works really well, and then sometimes it just doesn't work that well. So we're having some trouble. But what I want to say, or one thing I want to make sure I mention, is a couple of the schools that are joining us today. Roseville, I mentioned, maybe Cannon Falls. I feel like I saw someone from there. They actually purchase cheese curds and cheese products from CannonBelles and use it as part of their school meals. So I would challenge everybody who's joining us today to check out your school meal menus, and with some of the school nutrition people who help design those and prepare them, and see if you are using any cheese from local places that make it here in Minnesota, or other foods like apples or wild rice or things like that that are part of your school meals. Now, dairy cows, Carrie asked, what should we say about dairy cows? Well, I'll tell you a few things. I did not grow up on a dairy farm, but I have visited a lot and they are very fun. So go to a dairy farm in your area if you're able to. But the cows you maybe saw were black and white. That's the most common breed of dairy cows in Minnesota. They're called Holsteins. So if you go to a dairy farm, chances are you're going to see black and white cows. But there are other breeds as well. Like there's brown Swiss, they're kind of a light brown color. There's Guernseys and Jerseys and a few other breeds, but Holstein are the most popular. So I see Deanne has joined us again. Let's cross our fingers that our technology works this time. Deanne, why don't you chat with us and let's see if we can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh man, you sound
talking about our much better.
Yes, you sound loud and clear. So tell us about where we are and what we should know.
All right, we're in what we call the bulk tank room. So this is where the milk comes at 2 in the morning. The semi of milk comes and a hose comes through this, the doghouse, and then it gets hooked up to this tank here. And this is a 1,000-gallon tank. So imagine 1,000 milk jugs, big milk jugs, lined up end to end, and that is 4 football fields. Or if you poured this into a swimming pool, you could do a nice cheesy freestyle. So it's a lot of milk. In 2024, from that milk, we bought 34,000 gallons of milk. That made 23,000 pounds of cheese just last year. So all that cheese would make a mountain's worth of grilled cheese. It's a lot. So when the milk leaves here, it goes through some piping into the room where we make cheese. So as we walk in, we'll talk a little bit about food safety. Milk straight from a cow could have some bad bacteria in it. So to make sure that it's safe, we run the milk through a pasteurizer. It's called an HTST, high temperature short time. So the milk runs up and down through it. There's lots of plates in here, and the milk runs up and down through it, heating it up to 163 degrees, more than twice your body temperature. And it heats it up to that temperature for 14 seconds. What that does is kill all the bad germs. So it's kind of like taking a good hot shower to get rid of all the dirt. And it makes it then safe to eat. We then have a computer system here that tracks the temperatures of that milk so we can prove that it was safe. Or if we had some problems, you could go back and see what happened. But the state and the federal government requires this to ensure that we do it in the safest way possible. The milk then goes through these pipes into the vat. So by the vats here, ooh, very exciting. So we're going to go backwards for a little bit maybe, or forwards and then go back. But we're making cheddar cheese curds today, and they'll be milling them. So who you're going to see here, the tallest person back there is Jackie, my partner who handles the money and runs this crew. Then we have 2 part-time employees, Jenna and Amber. They also work on a dairy farm, so from beginning to end of milk. And we have a full-time employee, Elaine. Elaine is our plant manager, so she handles all the stuff inside this building, keeps it running in tip-top shape, making sure that we have all the supplies that we need. So without Elaine, we wouldn't be where we are. So thank God we have these ladies to help us. So when the
And I'm
milk,
going to interrupt you. Can I interrupt you just for a second? We have our first question, and I just want to remind everybody watching, please use the Q&A to ask us questions. But while we left and came back to you, I was telling about breeds of dairy cattle, and I said most commonly is Holstein, but there's other breeds. Do you know if the milk tastes different from different breeds of cattle?
the milk can taste a little bit different. Like a brown Swiss has more fat to it, so it'll taste creamier. What also happens is that if the cows eat grass, like are in a pasture, they can take on the flavor of the flowers that they eat. Like if they have clovers or different things, it can change the flavor of the milk. So if you have cows that are pastured, you have seasonal cheese because that different flavor of milk will change the flavor of your cheese too. So
Interesting. Okay,
yeah,
thank you. And please be sure to put your questions in the Q&A. We want to ask Deanne as many as we can. So carry on.
okay, we're going to skip to sort of the end of a cheese make because you need to see what's going on over here. This is our curd mill. So we're making cheddar curds. And Kate, if you want to get in closer, feel free. You can even get in there. So we have these slabs of cheese curd that they're putting into this, and it's cutting it into the size pieces that you're kind of used to seeing and eating.
So as we're seeing this, it looks delicious. Razia is curious if you make ice cream too.
We do not make ice cream right now. That requires even more equipment and a freezer. And we don't have a big deep freezer here. So instead, we do have a coffee and ice cream shop, but we buy our ice cream from a place in Wisconsin. So
Okay,
right now, the only dairy thing we do is cheese.
Okay, so speaking of cheese, we saw those cheese curds. Here's a question. Why do some cheese curds squeak?
That is a good question. So they squeak because of the cheddaring process. So if you want to go back over there, there's slabs or like sheets of cheese curd. For the past hour and a half, we flipped and stacked them on top of each other. So the whey slowly moved through it. And that changed it to give it that squeaky texture that you're used to. And that squeak only lasts for a day or two. But if you want your curds to squeak up again, just throw them in the microwave for a couple seconds and they should squeak right back up.
Okay, awesome. Here's a question from Mrs. Konachki. I think that's how you say her name, but I've met her. She's in LaPorte, Minnesota. Her and her class are wondering how many types of cheese you make.
That is a good question. So we make cheddar, Gouda, Colby, queso fresco, which is a Spanish style cheese that most people haven't heard of. It's kind of like a mozzarella and a Monterey Jack combined. It melts like a mozzarella. And then from cheddar, we make cheese curds. So that's kind of where we're at.
Fantastic. Okay, so you said that was the end. Do you want to kind of go back to the
so we'll
beginning?
go back to the beginning. So
Okay.
we have these silver pipes in here, and all of our silver pipes hold milk, and the white pipes hold water. So the silver pipes bring the milk into the vat here. We have two different vats, a big one and a small one. And this big one is what we mainly use. Today we made Colby in it, which we'll visit that Colby in a little bit. So the milk comes in here, and then we add cultures to it. Cultures are good bacteria. Those give it its flavor, turns the milk a little bit sour. So we put those in and let them grow. If you've ever made bread or somebody you know has made bread and you let it rise, that's kind of the same thing. So as they grow, we can test the acidity of it to know when it's time to add the rennet. And rennet solidifies it. It separates the solids from the liquid inside the milk. There's actually solids in your milk. So then as it does it, we have a big slab of curd floating on the top of whey. It's kind of like Jell-O made out of milk. It's weird. So then we take that big flat slab and we cut it into about 1/4 inch size cubes that we then will cook. We cook curds to help grow those good bacteria some more to develop the flavor, but also to get rid of some of the moisture. When you heat them up, the moisture comes out. Each cheese cooks for a different amount of time. Our queso fresco will cook for like a half an hour. That cheddar cooked for an hour and a half. So kind of typically the softer the cheese, the less it cooks, if you kind of think about it that way, because you're keeping in more moisture if you don't cook it as long. Once it's done cooking, Then we will drain the whey off, that clear liquid. Now, what whey is? Whey, like I said, is kind of clear. It looks a little yellow, but it has a lot of good nutrients in it. We actually haven't pulled out all of the solids out of it. So there's good calcium, protein, vitamin D, a lot of good stuff. In fact, whey is used to make baby formula and protein drinks. It's added to ice cream, a lot of things. But the way they do that is drying the whey out and getting a powder. To be able to do that, you need a semi-tanker full of whey. We don't make that much whey here. So what do we do with our whey? Because it's a good thing with good nutrients. What we do is we have a truck that we pump the whey out into, and then we drive that truck back to the farm and we feed it to the cows. So the cows love it. It makes their food taste even better. And then their milk is even better quality, which makes our cheese even better. So it's a perfect circle that goes around.
Okay, so Deanne, I have a question from Emmett, and this might be
Yeah.
one of the next steps. Emmett is wondering, how does the cheese get its taste?
The cheese gets its taste from the cheese cultures. So there's different strains of cultures that give you different flavors. So I have one that makes a buttery, a hint of butter to our cheese. Another one can make our Gouda taste slightly nutty. So they'll add different flavors to it. And as we grow those cultures and as they age, and we'll talk about it more in our cooler, those flavors will get stronger. So the fresher the cheese, often the lighter the flavor is, kind of like a mozzarella. There's not a ton of flavor to it, but like your cheddar ages for a longer time and you can really taste that. So it's the cultures and the amount of time we let them grow that helps determine that. An interesting fact is that our Colby and our cheddar have almost the exact same ingredients. The only difference is how we cook them. And so then they taste completely different. Because we talked about that cheddaring process. That's not what happens to Colby. So that's one of the reasons why they taste so different.
Very interesting. Okay, Deanne, I'm going to ask you to speed up a little bit because with our technical difficulties, we're a little behind schedule, but
Okay.
we want to see how this cheese is made. So keep us moving.
Yes. Okay, so then we drain off that whey and then we'll salt the curds in. Oh, in fact, the ladies are getting ready to do it. We'll talk about it while they do it. This is Amber and Jenna. In fact, Jenna's an identical twin. So if you see her out in town, that might not be her. But we salt the curds in 3 saltings. Salt pulls out moisture. If you've ever salted watermelon, a lot of water comes out when you do that, similar to this. So if we added the salt all at once, most of the salt will go down the drain. So we add it 3 times slowly so that the salt can soak in. Salt helps the flavor come out in the cheese, but it's also a preservative, helping keep out that bad bacteria and the bad germs. So they're slowly salting this now. We'll pan back around when they start doing it again. They're letting the whey drain off. When we flavor curds, we'll put them in these tubs here. We color code things, so white to us means it touches milk or cheese. So they'll measure out how many pounds of curds they want to flavor. Today, we're making 20 pounds of ranch curds, so they'll measure 20 pounds of curds here. And then we have heated up the spices. We add a little bit of water to make it like applesauce, and then we heat this in a microwave to 170 degrees to kill any bad bacteria that might have been in the spices to make sure it's as safe as possible for you. Then we either bag it up in a big bag if we're just going to eat the curds plain, and then tomorrow the crew will package those into individual bags, or we'll put it in a block and press it. Let's go look at the press. So this is our cheese press. Currently we have Colby in here. In these blocks are the curds. So our cheese curds are cheddar, just really, really young. If we took those same curds and put them in this block, we squish them together, they're still warm, and we call it knitting together. They become one giant block. They press for a different amount of time. The longer they press, the more moisture leaves it. So our queso fresco presses for 3.5 hours. This will stay overnight. So it just depends on what we're making. So we're going to walk in the cooler and talk about that. If you have any more questions, you can ask it now while we walk.
I do have a couple. So Miss Sheriff's class from Capitol Hill Magnet has a couple. First of all, they're curious if you've heard that music music affects cheese taste. Have you
Ooh.
experimented with that?
I have not, and now I want to. That would be super fun. So we might have to get your information and try it and see.
They also are wondering what is your cheese that is the most popular?
Ooh, our most popular cheese is probably our Gouda, but second is our queso fresco because nobody makes it. No, we don't know of anybody, even in Wisconsin, who makes it. So, and we did win first place for it at the American Cheese Society a few years ago. So it's award winning. All right, in this room, this is our fresh cooler. And the difference in this is the temperature is 35 to 40 degrees. We keep our cheeses that do not need to age, like our cheese curds. These are the individual bags. And then we have some big bulk bags. These are actually going to a hotel that they're going to serve to their customers. We also in here have our, it's gone, our queso fresco. Here it is. Queso fresco means cheese fresh cheese. And like I said, it's like a mozzarella jack cheese. It melts.
We're having a little technical difficulty. So Kate, our camera person, if you want to maybe back up a little closer to the door, but I think Deanne was sharing the queso fresco and a few of our other cheeses. And maybe you want to look in your local grocery store and see if they maybe have some CannonBelles cheese. Deanne?
Mozzarella. But we also in here have, I don't know if you can see it over there, this long tub, and that is our brine tank because Gouda gets salted differently. It sits in a salt bath for 3 days, soaking salt up. So part of the reason we need to age Gouda is so that salt makes it all the way to the middle of the cheese. In here is our aging room. It is about 50 degrees, a little bit warmer. So germs like warmth and moisture to grow. Our cultures also need warmth and moisture to grow. But what we want to do is grow those cultures so much that they take up all the space so that the bad bacteria can't fit in. We also, as they grow, those cultures eat lactose, which is in the way. So if any of you are lactose intolerant, if it makes your stomach icky, that's what it's doing, is eating the lactose. So as the cheese ages, you have less lactose. So if you like Parmesan, there's no lactose in it. Some of our cheddar in here is from 2016, and that would be good for people who are lactose intolerant. But here we have cheddars in boxes over here and Gouda on wheels here. We put it in boxes because light damages cheese. It causes it to turn bitter. If you have like a white ring on the outside of it, don't eat that. It probably tastes bad. So we cover it up. And we also vacuum seal it to keep bad stuff out. With Gouda, we wax it because it needs to let out some of that moisture. We used to put them in vacuum bags and trap that moisture in, and it got all mushy and icky. So we have to let it breathe. Wax would crack. Then in this room, we will cut and package the cheeses that are in there. We use this fancy wire to cut our cheese. Kind of, if any of you have a cheese slicer at home, it's kind of like that. So we manually do it, weigh out each piece, and we put it in a vacuum bag. And this is our big vacuum sealer. We have two sides so we can fill one and have the other one going. We pull out all the air because not only does bacteria need air, or not, it just needs warmth and moisture. It also needs air. So if you pull the air out, those bacteria won't grow. So it keeps it safe and lets it last longer. Our blocks of cheese are nice and smooth on the outside because I don't know if any of you have used Shrinky Dinks, the plastic that you draw in and put in your stove and it shrinks up into little pieces. It's kind of the same. We heat this water up nice and hot, and then we dip the cheese in really quick and it shrinks the bag up tight around the cheese, sealing it in even better and keeping out all the bad stuff. And it looks pretty. So then we put our labels on it and make sure that all the ingredients are on it and the date that it'll expire so that you know that you're getting the best cheese. Over here, you can see this is our wax pot. It's the same kind of pot you use to make candles, but this is a special wax for cheese to let it breathe, let the moisture out. And in here, we also store labels and our spices. Our spices and flavorings come from within 20 miles of this building. We get our peppers, garlic, and horseradish from a farm down the street. We get Carolina Reaper peppers, the super hot ones from Northfield, the pepper people. And all of our spices are blended here for us by Joe Mama's barbecue sauce and seasoning in Northfield. He comes to our building and does it for us. So we use it as local as possible. So when you're buying our cheese, you're getting a true Minnesota cheese.
Awesome,
So then when
Deanne.
it's ready to sell, we'll put it in boxes and send it out to the store.
Okay, a few more questions, and then we're going to have to wrap things up. There was a question earlier from Mackenzie. She noticed there was white stuff on the floor. And so I can see it in the video right now. Could you tell us what that is?
Yes, this white stuff here is foam, is foot foam. It's called quaternary, and it kills everything, all bacteria, all the bad stuff, because your feet probably have a lot of icky stuff on them. I mean, you're not going to lick the floor, are you? So we don't want to bring germs in where you're making food. So this is just another way to keep things as clean as possible.
Okay, Deanne, I have just a couple more questions, and these are about favorites. So what is your favorite cheese, and what is your favorite part about being a cheesemaker?
Okay, I'm going to introduce, this is Jackie. They asked me my favorite cheese. What's your favorite cheese?
Gouda.
Her favorite cheese is Gouda.
My favorite.
I personally love our dill curds. They're wonderful. I love our queso fresco. It's kind of like asking who your favorite child is. It's not a fair question. You can't have a favorite. No. But if you ask, that's our answers, Gouda and dill curds. Yeah.
Got it. And so maybe Jackie wants to be part of this question
Jackie.
too. What's your favorite part about being cheesemakers?
What's your favorite part about being a cheesemaker?
Every time we add the rennet to the milk and see it go from a liquid to a solid, it is so cool just to see it work out and how it just magically happens. I don't know the science behind it. That's Deanne's job. I love seeing it go from a liquid to a solid and cutting it like Jello. It's so cool.
That does
And
sound
so
amazing.
it is super fun. So the class is that win that cheese making kit, you get to see it and it's super fun. And then you get to eat your experiment, which is also wonderful, which is why I love that Jackie makes our flavors.
Very cool. Well, speaking of the cheese making kits, my coworker Carrie, I think, has a list ready that she's going to show on the screen that people, these are the lucky winners of the cheese making kits, which we will follow up with you via email to get the best address to send this to. So congratulations. I mean, if you see your list there, the first top two are schools that serve CannonBelles, and then the last 8 are teachers that we're going to send them to you in your classroom. So congratulations. We'll be reaching out, and thank you to everyone who joined us. If you are not a lucky winner of a cheese kit, we'll send you the links where you can find those pieces on your own. And Deanne also shared some a teacher guide and some additional things, and there was a recipe for making some cheese in there too that just used milk and lemon juice. So you guys, cheese is out there for you to be made. So thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you, Deanne, for being our host and telling us all sorts of fantastic things about how cheese is made. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoys some cheese and thinks about how it's made, and now you know a little bit more behind it. So thanks everyone. We will be in touch.